السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Let us enliven our hearts and minds in our gathering with the remembrance of the Holy Prophet and his pure progeny. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Today, we live in the age of technology, advanced technology, the age of the internet and digital media. Surveys tell us that approximately 3 billion people are active internet users, almost just a little less than half of the world's population. In 2010, that year, 2010, was hailed as the year of Facebook. Today, Facebook boasts approximately 1.3 billion users. Twitter boasts approximately 650 million active users, with every day 200 million tweets are sent, every single day. When we come to YouTube, 4 billion videos are watched every single day, and every minute of the day, 100 hours of video time are uploaded to YouTube. When it comes to Google and its derivatives, Sheikh Google, Dr. Google, Mullah Google, Google boasts about 6 billion searches every single day. Now, when we come to digital technology, we'll notice that it's transformed our lives in remarkable and amazing ways. It has the potential to give us so much. It's really transformed our lives in a way that was unimaginable 20 or 30 years ago. I read a post once online about the question that was being asked is, how would you explain the internet and the smartphone to a person from the early 1900s? If someone from last century, from 100 years ago, were to magically pop up today, how would you explain the internet and the smartphone to this individual? And one answer said that I would tell this person that I have a wealth of information and knowledge in the palm of my hands, and I use this in order to argue with strangers and to look at pictures of cute cats. And in fact, not only are we looking at pictures of cats, but cats are looking pictures of other cats. When we come to social media has had a profound impact on the way that we interact and communicate with one another. The way that we communicate with one another has drastically changed. Before Facebook, you knew people, you had a small intimate group of people that you knew very personally, right? After Facebook, we started to find friends that we had not been in contact for a very long time. We even realized that we had relatives and family members that we didn't even know about. Yet through Facebook, they started to crop up everywhere. Digital media, technology, social media has given us a great platform, and it has a great potential for change. It has a great potential for learning, for education, for awareness, and for promoting good. Yet, at the same time, social media has also caused unmatched destruction and crises. Because of the digital technology and the digital media and the social media that we've acquired, this has also caused a great deal of problems. It's caused a lot of destruction within societies and within families. And as such, brothers and sisters, we have to be aware. We have to evaluate our usage of social media. We have to evaluate our usage of the internet, because the internet and social media is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Like any tool. It's like a vehicle, a car. You can use the car to get you to school or to work or to visit family or to come to the majlis or the masjid, but you can also use that same car to go to places that you're not supposed to be going to. You can use a hammer to hang a nice portrait, right? To frame something in your home, to fix something, but you can also use a hammer to break someone's window, to destroy something. The internet and social media in particular is a tool. It is not neutral. It's not neutral. See, because it's so fast-paced, because we live in a time and a society where everything is so fast-paced, every few months something new comes out. Every few days there's a new social network platform. There are new smartphones coming out left and right, one after another. We have greater access to internet, faster internet every day. Because it's so fast-paced, sometimes we end up taking it, consuming it, without being mindful of its effects. And so it's important for us, brothers and sisters. We can't just accept everything that's out there at face value. There's nothing that's neutral. We always have to evaluate the pros and cons of everything that we see and everything that we interact with. Unfortunately, what ends up happening sometimes is because of peer pressure, because of the society that we live in, we end up immersing ourselves into social media and the internet completely, because if you don't have Facebook, then people are going to think you're weird. There's something wrong with you. If you're not tweeting every day, there's a question mark. What's wrong with this person? If you're not posting photos onto Instagram, and if you're not on Tumblr, and if you're not on Snapchat or what have you, people are going to say there's something wrong with this person. What are you, a loner? Do you not have friends? Do you not want to communicate with others? And so as a result, because of this peer pressure, we tend to take it and absorb everything. We take things at face value without analyzing and evaluating the pros and the cons of this usage. And so tonight, brothers and sisters, I'd like to make a number of points and remind myself, first and foremost, before I remind you, dear brothers and sisters, when it comes to our usage of digital media and the internet and social media. Number one is the issue of wasting time. Time is a very precious thing, brothers and sisters. Time is one of those things that no matter what we do, we can never bring back after it's gone. and inshallah in the upcoming nights, we'll talk about the significance of time, how time is important, and how we can take care of our time and use our time wisely. Time is very important. Brothers and sisters, some of us, we end up wasting so much time throughout the day on our usage, on our phones, on our computers. Certain estimates put the average user of digital media, those who watch, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, and other forms of digital media, there is an average of 11 hours per use. Every single day, 11 hours on average are dedicated to digital media. When it comes to our usage of social media, surveys tell us between 2 to 3 hours a day are dedicated to social media. Reports tell us that 22%, 2 out of every 10, 22% of youth and young adults log into Facebook at least 10 times a day, at least. And I think this is probably outdated. I think it's a little bit more than 22%. But that's what statistics tell us. They tell us that 22% of young people, young adults, the youth, they log into Facebook at least 10 times a day. And what do? A lot of people, they use it wisely. They get their news, they stay up to date on current events, they hold important, significant, educational discussions and so on. They share important news. But much of our social media usage, and when we're on the internet, much of it is wasted with trivial things. Posting just for the sake of posting. Sharing just for the sake of sharing. Taking photos and posting them just for that sake. Or getting into arguments. Because of the nature of social media, it's open to the world potentially. You're going to see people of various backgrounds and understandings and age groups and lifestyles come and post things. There are some individuals who spend so much time just going to argue. They don't like a post and they start an argument with someone, right? For the sake of arguing. They spend hours, countless hours on social media, on Facebook and Twitter and other platforms in order to argue or deal with trivial things, things that are not important, things that are not beneficial for us. Brothers and sisters, with our time we can do so many productive things, especially those who are young. Because later on in life, one of the problems is that later on in life, because of other commitments to family, to your children, to work, to careers, to your education and other things, you don't have as much time as you'd like to learn, to educate, to grow intellectually and spiritually. And so we have to remember that we have to use our time wisely, brothers and sisters. Don't let the lure of the internet, and especially of social media, take you away from things that are important in life. We live in very ironic times, right? Today, the advancements with technology and communication and transportation, they're supposed to make our lives much more efficient. We're supposed to get more done in the day, but it seems like everyone's still complaining that we don't have enough time in the day to do the things that we want to do. We have to evaluate how we're spending our days. What are we doing with our time? So one thing is the issue of wasting time on things that are not beneficial, but in fact, even harmful for us. This is number one. Number two, which is related to the first point, is the issue of obsession and addiction. You see, when we talk about addiction, the first thing that comes to mind, we're talking about drug addiction or alcohol addiction, right? Those people who are always high, or they're always drunk. They can't get off of alcohol. They're abusing these things. And so they're addicted. They need help. They need to go to a rehab center so that they can get help for this addiction. There are many other forms of addictions, brothers and sisters. Psychologists now and researchers, they're writing lots and publishing lots of articles and books about the psychological effects of this obsession that some individuals have with social media. They're telling us that there is a growing sense of addiction to social media. One study talks about something known as FOMO, F-O-M-O, the fear of missing out. The fear of missing out. This is something real. This is not something that I'm making up. This is something real. That they're suggesting that the way that social media platforms are arranged with this never-ending interface, right? You keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. When you reach the top sometimes, right, we'll notice that you can still drag the screen down and it makes that little click and it updates. Just in case that split second, and people are, there's a fear of missing out. There's a fear that they will miss out on some people's comments, on what they're saying, on what's happening in their lives, what events that they might miss. There's this fear, and this is real. This is real. Surveys say that up to 56% of individuals, they suffer from anxiety because they fear that they're missing out on something when they use social media. The bane of our existence now has become notifications. Just look at the smartphones that we use, right? Let me give you an example, because I'm an Apple nerd. So let me give you an iOS example. For those who are familiar with Apple, you'll notice that Apple, the recent iOS update on their phones, right? It's all about notifications, the past few. The most important features are what? Are notifications. For every app that you download, there are features, and everywhere you turn, you can do it on the lock screen, you can do it on the home screen, you can do the little badges, you can do sounds, you can do vibration, you can do all of these things, right? And the new apps that are updating are constantly reminding you to turn on notifications. So even if you go on Twitter, for instance, and you post something, right, as soon as you leave, comes the notification. That badge pops up. You go and you check it. As soon as you close it, once again it pops up. I don't know if they've done it on purpose, where every time you exit the app, the notification comes up, but it comes up and it causes you to go back, log in once again, because you want to see, what's this new comment? What's this new update? What's this new thing that I have to look at? And it causes us to become obsessed. Now some people, they might say, Sayyid, really? Obsession? That sounds too much. Obsession is addiction, that's a little too much. I mean, yeah, we use our phones and we use the internet and social media, but to say that we might be obsessed, ask yourself this question. What's the very first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? What's the first thing that you do before you get up and you use the restroom and you wash your face and you brush your teeth? What's the very first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning? What's the very last thing that you do before you go to bed? You've gotten into your PJs and you've brushed your teeth and you've taken your contacts out and you've closed the door and you've turned off the lights, but the phone is right there, right next to your bedside. It's so easy. All you have to do is just move to your side, and nowadays with the long, you can get them on Amazon, the long extension cords, for the chargers, you're not stuck. You can comfortably, you can even lie on your back and watch, and sometimes the phone even falls on your face. The first thing that we do, the last thing that we do, and then some people, they complain, they say, well, I can't sleep at night. Turn off your phone. Turn off your phone. It's becoming something that's serious. We laugh about it, brothers and sisters, but if we really think about it, there's something serious going on. There's something that we have to be aware of. The fear of missing out, our addiction to our smartphones. I read an article that was talking about an issue that a lot of people are experiencing. One that is known as phantom vibrations. What is that? Many times we have our phones on vibrate, right? And you have it in your pocket, or you have it on you, and then suddenly you feel a vibration. And you pull out your phone, and you open it, you unlock your phone, and you're looking for the notification, and there's nothing there. You switch the pages, you keep going left and right, you open the apps, there's no notification, you open it, you make sure you, again, you click, to update, but there's nothing there. What happened? They say, researchers say, that because we're so used to feeling these vibrations constantly, alert after alert, message after message, that sometimes we begin to feel them when they're not even there. Phantom vibrations. This is real. I'm not joking, brothers and sisters. This is real. People are experiencing these conditions. These are psychological conditions. This is your mind telling you, again, to go back to your phone. There's obsession. There is addiction. It's affecting our lives in various aspects. It's causing us, many students, to develop negative studying habits. Today, there was a time where when you wanted to study, you had your book, you had the library, you had your notebook. Nowadays, it's very difficult to get away from your laptop or your phone. And again, with the updates, right? Nowadays, you don't even have to pull out your phone. You can get your messages and your updates and everything on your laptop. So as you're typing your paper, as you're studying, you have another tab open and you're going back and forth, back and forth. You can't focus like that. That's not a healthy way to study. That's not a healthy way for us to learn. We're developing negative studying habits. It's affecting our health even. I mentioned this a little while ago. When it comes to sleep deprivation, students in general, they don't get too much sleep. They end up sleeping late and waking up very early. And even with the sleep deprivation that we have, because of our usage of digital media and smartphones and social media, we're even sleeping later than we would normally sleep. Spending countless time on our phones, texting and talking. So this is one. And this is not just with the old. Look at our young kids. Look at our young kids. There was a time where if a child was holding a lollipop and you took the lollipop away from the child would scream. Today, the child is holding a lollipop and an iPad. If you take the lollipop, nothing's going to happen. But if you take the iPad from the child, oh. And it's the same. Kids, the first thing they wake up in the morning, they go straight to their iPad. They want to play a game. It's the last thing that they do. They take it in the car with them. They take it to the masjid with them. Wherever they go, to families, friends, it's always there with them. The current generation of individuals who are being born are being called the touch screen generation. The touch screen generation. There's an obsession. There's an addiction. We have to be very aware, brothers and sisters. This is number 2. Number 3 is the issue of narcissism. Again, that's a heavy word. We don't want to be called narcissistic because that means what? That means that it's all about my ego. But if we evaluate the way that social media works in general, and the way that we react to social media, we'll notice that deep within us, all of us, we like to be recognized and praised. We all do. There's no one that says, oh no, don't recognize me, don't bring up my name, don't praise me, don't say thank you to me. No. Very few. There are very, very few, those who are truly humble. Those who have no ulterior motives and no sense of ego. Very few. The vast majority, they like to be recognized. They like to be praised. This is why in schools and universities, in community centers, at work, everywhere, people are recognized with certificates, with awards, with prizes, right? Because we like recognition. It's a form, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Recognition can be a very good thing. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the hadith, says, "Man lam yashkur al-makhluq, lam yashkur al-khaliq." He or she who does not recognize and thank the creation has not thanked the Creator. We have to thank, we have to recognize people's goodness. Yet, in moderation. It has the potential, this recognition, this ego, has the potential to come and take over and destroy us. Destroy us. We like to be praised. We like to be recognized. And we notice this when it comes to the way that we engage with social media. Right? When I tweet something, and I've done a lot of hard work, I spent a lot of time on Google finding those good quotes. Right? I found something perfect. And I found a beautiful scenery to go with it, a nice sunset. Right? And I used this third app to put them together. I've come up with a magnificent creation. And I tweet this, or I post it. I, in many cases, am looking for recognition. How many retweets can I get? How many favorites can I get? How many likes can I get? Likes. Like. When we go on Instagram, same thing also, right? You post the photo, you post a comment, people comment, and they like. Comment and like, and over and over and over. How many followers can you get? How many likes can you get? Can you perhaps get yourself onto the popular page? Oh, that would be a dream. This narcissistic behavior, this ego-driven behavior. And the thing with social media, brothers and sisters, is that in general it gives us a false sense of self-worth. Because sometimes we're looking for recognition. We believe that the more retweets and the more likes that we get, that means that we're important. That means that people look up to us. That means that we have a wider and larger connection of friends and people who like us. So for many, it's an indicator of self-worth, but this is a false indicator. Because many people, whether they like you or not, whether they know you or not, when they open Instagram, they're going to like every single photo that they see. You see it sometimes, right? Some people who, start following you, they go onto your account and they like all of your photos. You have 200 posts, suddenly you open Instagram and you have a big 200 and you're like, whoa, what happened there? And you open it's one person who went through your entire account and liked all of your photos. It's a false indicator of self-worth. And on the other hand, sometimes when we don't get that recognition and we don't get that praise, we feel bad. Oh, no one likes me. No one thinks this is important. That's also a false indicator of self-worth. Self-worth is not based on whether people recognize you or not. Our self-worth is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The greater our faith and iman, and the better our actions are, and the more sincerity we have, that is what makes us greater in the eyes of Allah and in the eyes of people. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Verily, the most honorable of you in the sight of God are those who are most God conscious. So it's a false indicator of self-worth. And then we come to issues of complaining online. Allahu Akbar. How many people use social media to complain? To complain. I did this happened to me, that happened to me. It's Monday, I almost got into a car accident. He doesn't like me, she said this about me, and we complain and complain and complain to the entire world. Let me tell you something. If you had a problem today, if you faced a problem, would you be willing to come up here, stand behind the mic, and say, oh, guess what, everybody, I failed my test today? In most cases, most people probably won't do that. So why are you announcing it online to the entire world? Why? Does this not signify that I'm trying to express here, again, once again, the ego comes out, that I'm important? Or the things that we post, the very trivial and irrelevant things that we post, what we had for breakfast today, where I am on my journey today. You know, sometimes you can tell people, oh, well, I'm going to be in this city, in that city, let family, friends know where you are. But sometimes it's like, you know, throughout the entire journey, every pit stop that you have, update, 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 update. Little things, very, very little things that mean what? That mean I'm important, look at me, I did this today, I did that. We have to think about this. We have to think about this very hardly, and it's a very important thing that we have to think about. Right? The issue of narcissism is number 3. A prime example is the surge in selfies. Surge in selfies. You know, some profiles, it's okay, I understand the issue behind it. Sometimes you don't have someone to take a picture of you. You've gone somewhere, you want to show where you are. Selfie, okay, we get it. But sometimes you go on certain people's profiles, or you see certain people's profiles, and it's all selfies. All of it. It's all selfies. People taking pictures of themselves everywhere, doing everything. Does this not show how egotistical we are? When it comes to, you know, politics, many of us, we become, we have this sense of I don't even know what to call it. You know, this strong passion itself when it comes to talking against injustice. Oh, look at this country, the president or the leader of this country, he has his photos everywhere. In the masjids, in the alleys, in government buildings, in the elevators, in the bathrooms, everywhere. Look at him, it's all about him, it's all about him. Come to our social media profiles. Every day, it's a new profile photo, a new profile picture. One day, it's looking forward. One day, it's my left side. One day, it's my right side. One day, it's the top half of my face. The other day, it's the bottom half of my face. One day, it's in color. The other day, it's in black and white. Is this not egotistical? When we scoff and say, oh, look at these dictators, they have their photos everywhere. Do we not have our photos everywhere? The third issue is the issue of narcissism. The fourth, brothers and sisters, is the issue of poor social skills. Poor social skills. Social media is good at everything but at making us social. Before, there was a time where, and I'm not trying to say that, the past is better than now, no. But I'm trying here to show that there are certain things that are happening that we're not necessarily aware about, we have to think about. Before, there was a time where if you had a problem with someone, you had a problem with your wife, or with your husband, or with your kids, or with your parents, or with your friends, or with your boss, or with whoever it may be, you'd either talk to them in person, you tell them, hey, listen, you upset me today, you said this, you said that, there's this problem. Or you'd pick up the phone and you'd call them if they're far away. Today, complete arguments and complete solutions are done texting. Now, some people, they might say, well, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we're sending a quicker message. Sometimes you're not around. Sometimes you're busy. You can't necessarily pick up the phone. The problem, brothers and sisters, is that we are not able to fully comprehend verbal cues over text messages. We've done a great job with the emojis and everything, trying to help. but it's not the same. And we all know this in our personal lives. Sometimes we've said something, we've meant something, but it's taken in the wrong way. It's taken in the wrong way, and then you try it for an hour to explain, yeah, but this is not what I meant. I meant this in a good way. I didn't mean it in a bad way. I was being nice. Right? What happened to talking to people? Or the infamous gatherings. In our gatherings, family gatherings, gatherings of friends, we're all sitting together, and then suddenly, you know, they say that, I don't know who says it, but I've heard it, that, you know, if a group of friends are talking, and then suddenly there's a moment of silence, what does that mean? That means that the angel of death passed by. I don't know, they say, like in, you know, the old ladies and men, you know, the very cultural, they say that. If a group of people are sitting and they're talking and talking and talking, and then suddenly they be quiet, that means that the angel of death passed by. Today, the angel of death is always passing by when all of a sudden everyone pulls out their phone. Family members, all sitting together, 5, 10, 15 people, and then, you know, we're talking. We're not very, very rude, by the way. We're very tactical, we're strategic when we do it too, right? We wait for the brave soul who does it first, and as soon as the brave soul does it first, everyone else does it. Everyone else pulls out their phones, and they begin to check their messages and their profiles and so on. And you're sitting there for half an hour, and no one's talking to each other. You've gotten together in order to talk, right? But no one's talking to each other. Or if they do, they're talking to each other through their social media platforms. I remember once I went to dinner with my family, and we went to the restaurant and we were seated at a table, and when we arrived there was 2 individuals on the table next to us, what looked like a father and his daughter, his teenage daughter. And so we sat down, we had dinner, and we left, and they were still there. From the moment, and I'm not exaggerating, God is my witness, brothers and sisters, I'm not exaggerating. From the time that we arrived, and we sat on that table, and we had our complete meal, and then we got up and we left, this daughter had her head in her phone the entire time. Entire time. She didn't even raise her head once. She had her phone and she's eating. And her father, I'm assuming it's her father, was sitting there and he's, I don't know, staring at the wall. The entire time. Poor social skills. We don't know how to socialize. We don't know how to talk to one another anymore. And this is real, yes. Again, we laugh about it, but it's real. So poor social skills is number 4. And then finally, number 5 is the issue of confusion between what is public and what is private. Brothers and sisters, for the most part, we've lost this sense of what is private. There are things that are supposed to be private in your life. Things that are just between you and your spouse, you and your friend, you and your very close circle of friends or parents or family members. Today we've lost that sense of privacy. We've allowed the entire world to see everything that we have. Everything. Everything private about our lives, we've put out onto the internet. We don't have a sense of privacy anymore. And this is problematic. This is problematic. Why? Because not everyone on the internet is a good person who's looking out for you. There are some people who are dangerous, brothers and sisters. There are predators, brothers and sisters. There are individuals and groups who specifically look for vulnerable people to take advantage of. You wouldn't go, if there's an area that's noted or well known for violence or gang-related activity, you're not going to go there and just casually walk in the middle of that area in the middle of the night. No, because if you do, you're looking for trouble. You might get hurt. Someone might take advantage of you. Why do we go and broadcast things that are private in our lives to the entire world? Why? There are security concerns. Real security concerns. Go and read the news. Read about young men and women who have been abused and taken advantage of. There's issues of cyberbullying. Cyberbullies who go after individuals. Some young men and women have committed suicide as a result of cyberbullying. There's a real danger. There's a real danger out there. We have to be aware, brothers and sisters. We have to think about this. Issues of privacy sometimes, and the problem is that many of the users of these social media platforms are young children. Young children, up to 20% to 0. Up to 20% of Facebook users are under or are 10 or under the age of 10 years old. Go and read. This is not me making up some random number. Up to 20%. And I said, how many Facebook users do we have today? Over 1 billion. 1 billion! And up to 20% of them are 10 or under. Now, a child who's 10 might not necessarily distinguish between what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, what's private and what's public. Sometimes, some of them, they get themselves into trouble for innocent things. They stand in front of their house, for instance, and they take a selfie with the house address behind, or with the number plate of the car showing, or with other, they take photos of their driver's license or their credit cards and they post them. You'll be taken advantage of. There are security risks and security concerns that we have to be aware of. Every few days we hear in the news, right? We think that we are in complete control of our privacy, but we hear in the news, so-and-so, their account got hacked and all of their photos got leaked to the public. These were supposed to be private photos. No one else was supposed to see them. But the account got hacked and then everyone saw them. There are concerns, brothers and sisters. We have to think about this. And then finally, the issue of how we're using social media. Brothers and sisters, we have to remember that as individuals, we are held accountable for everything we say and everything we do, including what we post and what we write. There's something called halal and haram. There's something that is called acceptable and prohibited, forbidden. There are certain ways that we cannot interact. There are certain things that we should not do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. The eyes, the ears, the mouth, the heart, all of this will be questioned and held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything. Everything. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Allah says, even an atom's weight of good or bad will be seen. Will be seen. Allah will judge us. There are many things, many times, we come across immoral behavior, immoral things. Individuals who are cursing and using foul language online, or they're posting very inappropriate photos or comments. We have to remember, we are held accountable. We have to ask ourselves, how am I using this? It's important, not only the way that we use it, but the way that we are exposed to potential harams. There's the issue of being exposed. Sometimes you yourself might not say something or do something haram, but because this open interface where everyone has access and all sorts of people are doing all sorts of things, there is a greater risk, a greater likelihood that you'll be exposed to something that you shouldn't be looking at. You'll be exposed to something that you shouldn't hear. we also have to remember, if you continue, scrolling on various pages on Instagram, there's a more than likely chance that you'll see something that you're not supposed to be looking at. And then after a while, we become desensitized. We see it once, twice, 10 times, 20 times, we become desensitized. It's not important for us anymore. Or then we begin to engage in that behavior ourselves. Brothers and sisters, we have to think of certain solutions. We have to think of certain solutions to these problems. One solution is that we have to be able to limit our time. We have to limit our time, even if we have to force ourselves. Even if we have to force ourselves to turn off our phones, to put them aside, in whatever way. I remember there was a man I knew who was a heavy smoker, heavy smoker. He was smoking so much, right? And so one day I was sitting down with him, I was discussing some things with him. And of course this is in no way condoning smoking at all. And so I was sitting down with him and discussing, and I noticed that every once in a while he would look up at the clock. Keep looking at the clock. Every few minutes. So after a while I asked him, I told him, why do you keep looking at the clock? He says, well, I'm trying to cut back on smoking, and so I've promised that I won't smoke more than one cigarette every hour. So he's checking to see if it's become an hour or not. Again, this is not, condoning smoking. So we have to be able to force ourselves. Sometimes we have strong free will, strong willpower, and we're able to limit the ways that we interact and the way that we use social media and the internet. But if you feel like you might be falling in one of these traps, force yourselves, brothers and sisters. Force yourselves. Just like you would avoid, God forbid, consuming alcohol or drugs or anything else that is harmful for your body or mind. Stay away. Avoid. Limit your exposure. And then number 2 is that we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful. We have to think. Think before you tweet something. Think before you post something. Is this good or bad? Is this beneficial or not beneficial? Will this have positive or negative consequences upon me and upon my faith and my belief? Brothers and sisters, we are the representatives of Imam Hussein. We are not just his followers, but we are the representatives of Imam Hussein. And so it's important for us to act like the representatives of Imam Hussein. Tonight, we remember a great representative of Imam Hussein, and that is his cousin Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam. Muslim ibn Aqil, who Imam Hussein, he sent him to the city of Kufa after receiving many letters asking for help. After receiving thousands of letters asking for help, Imam Hussein, he sends Muslim ibn Aqil, his emissary, and his representative to the city of Kufa. Muslim ibn Aqil, he arrives to the city of Kufa and he meets with many individuals there, and they promise support for Imam Hussein, for his cause. And they keep promising, and then word arrives or reaches Ibn Ziyad that Muslim ibn Aqil is here and that he's planning to take over. He's planning to take you down. And so Ibn Ziyad, Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad, he comes to the city of Kufa and he begins to terrorize people. He threatens people, he tells them that anyone who turns towards Muslim ibn Aqil or Imam Hussein, they will be killed and their family members will be killed. And as a result, those supporters, those helpers who had pledged allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil and to the Imam, they betray the Imam, they turn away from the Imam. They turn their backs on Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim is betrayed by all Muslim, then he begins to wander. The hadith tells us, or history tells us, that he was in the masjid of Kufa. He was praying and he had many followers behind him. By the time that he had finished his prayers, everyone had turned away. They had all left him alone. Muslim was standing alone. And so he exits the masjid and he begins to wander in the city of Kufa. Muslim wanderers all alone. Muslim wanderers all alone. They've all left him, no one there. He turns looking left and right. Who will help him? Who will care? Muslim wanders in the streets and the alleys of Kufa. All alone, everyone's betrayed him. He enters into one of the alleys of Kufa and he arrives at one of the homes there in one of those alleys, and he sits on the doorstep of the home. This home who belonged to a pious woman by the name of Taw'a. Taw'a, she comes and she opens the door and she notices that Muslim who she did not recognize. She notices that he's sitting out there, sitting on her doorstep, and she begins to ask him, she tells him, "Oh man, who are you?" Taw'a asks him, "Who are you? Why are you just sitting here? Please don't sit here at my door. Please walk away and stay clear." She tells him, "I want you to leave. You cannot sit here on my doorstep." Muslim, he turns to her, he tells her, "Oh lady, please, I'm thirsty. Give me some water. Please quench my thirst." So Taw'a, she enters into the home and she brings him a cup of water. She gives him the water. Muslim, he drinks this water. He gives it back to her. She enters the home. After a few moments, once again, she comes out and she notices that Muslim is still sitting there, and she tells him, "Why are you sitting here still? Why are you still here? I told you to leave. I told you to go. You can't just be sitting here. Who are you and what do you want?" Muslim, he replies to her. He tells her, oh lady, Muslim I am. I've been sent here by Hussein. All have betrayed me today. I have nowhere to remain. They've all left me. I don't have anywhere to remain. I have no home. I have no friend. I have no shelter. My name is Muslim. I am the representative of Imam Hussein. When Taw'a hears this, she begins to cry. She tells him, "My master Muslim, I apologize. I did not recognize you. I did not know who you are." So she invites him into the home. She tells him, "Please enter the home. Please stay in my home tonight." And so Muslim enters her home. He goes into one of the rooms. She prepares food and drink for him. She goes and she places it by his door. That night, Muslim ibn Aqil, he engages in worship during the entire night. Taw'a, in the morning, in the early morning, she comes to his room and she notices that the food is still there, that he has not touched the food. She tells him, "Oh my master Muslim, you have not eaten anything." He comes out to her and she looks at him and she says, "It seems that you have not rested either. You did not sleep last night. You have not eaten anything." Muslim, he tells her, "No, last night was not a time for me to rest. Last night was not a time for me to eat and to drink. These are my final moments. I know that I won't be here for too long." And then in the morning, Taw'a's son, he comes and he enters. Taw'a's son was one who was working for the Amir. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, not only did he frighten people, but he told them, "Whoever brings me news of Muslim, I will give them a great reward." And so the people, they betrayed their values and their faith. And one of those individuals was the son of Taw'a. He enters into the home and he notices that Muslim ibn Aqil is there. He goes and he gives news to the soldiers of Ibn Ziyad. The soldiers and the troops, they come towards the home of Taw'a, suddenly they hear the sound of the horses and the troops approaching. Taw'a, she turns to Muslim ibn Aqil. She tells him, it seems as if the enemies are here. How will you seek protection? Muslim ibn Aqil, he stands. He says, now is my time. Muslim stands prepared to fight. Muslim stands prepared to fight. One by one he fights them all. Surrounded by enemies, the time comes for him to fall. Muslim ibn Aqil, he courageously goes out and he begins to fight these soldiers. Historians tell us that there were 70 fighters, that Muslim ibn Aqil, he was able to push them back. He was able to kill many of these soldiers who were there to attack him. And then the commander, Ibn al-Ash'ad, he calls for backup. Backup is sent to him, another 70 soldiers. Muslim is brave and he fights them off, he wards them off. Once again, he calls for backup. The Amir, he gives him news. He tells him, oh Ibn al-Ash'ad, you are commander. I sent many men. How are you not able to take over this one man? How are you not able to take a hold of him? He gives back the news. He tells him, this is no regular man. Do you know who this is? This is Muslim ibn Aqil. This is the nephew of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Lion of God. This is from the household of Abu Talib. This is one of the most courageous men. Yet Muslim fights, but then they surround him. The enemies, they surround him from everywhere and they begin to attack him all at once. Historians tell us that some of the inhabitants and the residents of Kufa, those who betrayed them, that they got onto the roofs of their homes and they began to strike Muslim with rocks. And they began to strike him from every side to the point where Muslim falls. He's covered in his injuries. He's injured from head to toe. The soldiers, they take him and they proceed with him towards the palace of Ibn Ziyad. As he's entering the palace of Ibn Ziyad, he asks one of the guards, he tells them, please give me some water. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty, please give me some water. One of the soldiers, he notices Muslim in this very sad state, so he goes and he brings him a bucket of water. Muslim is about to drink, but he's bleeding from head to toe, and so the blood goes into the bucket and he's not able to drink. Once again, another bucket is brought for him. A second time, the same thing happens. A third time, the same thing happens. Muslim is not destined to drink. How is he supposed to drink? How is he supposed to drink when Hussein will die from thirst? Allahu Akbar. How is he supposed to drink when Hussein will die from thirst with shimmer sitting on his chest? In his blood he'll be immersed. Allahu Akbar. His master Imam Hussein will be thirsty. How is Muslim supposed to drink? He's taken up before Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad sees him. He begins to curse him. He abuses him and Imam Hussein and the family of Abu Talib. And then he commands his soldiers. He tells them, take him up to the roof of the palace. Off with his head. Muslim is taken to the roof of the palace. There he is placed, he is surrounded by troops. Muslim ibn Aqil, he begins to weep, he begins to cry. One of the soldiers standing there, he tells him, Ya Muslim, why are you crying? Are you afraid? Are you scared of death? He tells them, no, by Allah, I'm not crying for myself, but I'm crying for my master, Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Allahu Akbar. They tell him, do you have a last wish? He says, yes, just allow me to pray a 2-unit prayer. Just allow me to pray one more prayer. In that state, Muslim ibn Aqil, he prays, and then he turns towards Imam Hussein, and he tells him, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah, O Imam, peace be upon you, my master. Peace Peace be upon you, my master. We've been betrayed by them all. Don't come to Kufa today. Please, my master, hear my call. He turns towards the Imam and he says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. And then the narrators, they tell us that Muslim, he was beheaded on the roof of the palace, and then his body was thrown from the roof of the palace all the way down. Then his body was tied with ropes and it was dragged in the city of Kufa. Allahu Akbar. News reached Imam Hussein of Muslims' murder. With Imam Hussein, and I'll end with this, with Imam Hussein was Muslim's young daughter by the name of Hamida. She was there. So Imam Hussein, he received news of Muslims' death. He began to grieve. This was very difficult for him to hear this great loss. So he began to grieve and cry. Hamida, she looks at him and she tells him, my dear Aba Abdullah, why are you weeping? Why are you crying? Have you heard of any bad news? Imam Hussein, he approaches her, he tells her, my dear Hamida, come forth. He places his hand on her, hand in the manner that is done to an orphan. Hamida, she tells him, my dear master, why have you placed your hand on my head in the manner that is done to orphans? He tells her, he says, my dear daughter, oh dear Hamida, my condolences to you. She tells him, what has happened? Has something happened to my father? He tells her, my dear Hamida, from today I will be your father. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة